morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome. My name is Lucy Barnum, and I'm currently an undergraduate student at Northwestern and a journalist with YR Media, originally known as Youth Radio. This year, we're returning to school webinar series is co-hosted by the Center for the Developing Adolescent, the Readiness Project, and Youth-Nex, the UVA Center to Promote Effective Youth Development. A couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. This is a Zoom meeting, which means you can use your video and audio. Please remain muted throughout the presentation until prompted by the presenter. You're also welcome to leave questions throughout the presentation in the chat feature within the Zoom program. This meeting has a closed caption option through the live transcript feature. You can select to show subtitles or view the full transcript through the Zoom program. If you need a certificate of participation from this session, for accreditation or other purposes, please email youth-nex@virginia.edu. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the series website after the session. While we meet on a virtual platform today, we would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that each of us are on today. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to improving relationships between nations and improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all First Nation people that call this land home. We all know it's been one of the most challenging 18 months that many of us can remember in our lifetime, whether returning to the classroom for the first time since early 2020, transitioning from hybrid back to a regular schedule, or returning to a routine with less disruption. This fall will be an inflection point for all the adolescents in our communities. Tweens and teens have been deeply impacted, not just by the COVID-19 pandemic, but by racial reckonings across the nation, and from my own reporting of changing political landscape and many of the other factors that we've all experienced over the last 18 months, regardless of age. We want you to consider how we can not just build back focused on our own systems, classrooms, or programs, but build forward together. And finally, our hope is that we reimagine what schools might look like this fall to most effectively support adolescent learning and development. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the other youth joining me for this session. We'll get them spotlighted on the screen in just a minute. All right, why don't we start? Victor, why don't you start us off?
Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Davis. I am 18 years old. I am graduating. I graduated from Chicago High School for Agricultural Sciences. I'm on my way to Harold Washington under the Star Scholarship. I live in the Morgan Park neighborhood on the southwest side of Chicago, and I'm very happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Corinne Chow. I'm going to be a junior in high school this year. I play 2 sports. I play tennis and volleyball, and I play the flute, and I sing in my chamber choir for my high school.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Ooh. Sorry. Hi, all. My name is Primo. I use they, them, and he, him pronouns. I'm from San Francisco, California, so I'm out here on the West Coast this morning. I will be a freshman at Harvard University next year, studying art and design with a minor in psychology. I've also worked as a journalist at YR Media with Lucy, and I'm just generally interested in arts, creativity, as well as social justice and DEI advocacy.
My name is Arnez Barksdale. I'm currently a sophomore high school. I graduated from Cook Elementary School. I'm currently living in Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. And when I grow up, I wouldn't mind being a therapist.
Hello, my name is Sarvashrika Singh. I am currently at Community Lab School in Charlottesville, and I'm going to be a junior this fall.
Great, thank you all for sharing. And so we're just going to hop into our panel discussion. For all the participants, we'll be covering 3 main themes today, and our first one is the COVID experience for youth. So our first question is, what has been your greatest joy during this time? Arnez, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I will do that. During the COVID-19 quarantine, my most definite greatest joy is being able to attend classes in the comfort of my own home and not having to commute to the school. Because of that, it's much easier to not only attend classes because you don't have to really worry about late if you set an alarm and such, and you don't have to take into account of travel time.
I think my greatest joy during this time, especially in quarantine, has been spending a lot of time with my family because before coronavirus, we had a lot of stuff to do and a lot of busy things. So we couldn't do things like family game night or family movie night. So being in quarantine has really helped us bond more and do those family game nights and movie nights, and we get to have fun and enjoy time with each other.
Yeah, I would say my greatest joy would be the creativity that I had to do in the house. Basically, I didn't really have that much people to talk to except my base family, my mom, my dad, my sister. And, it's kind of boring talking to them. So, I ended up just connecting with my friends again and stuff, and was able to reconnect memories and stuff like that, make new ones, and actually talk with them and stuff through via ways of playing games with them, via just playing the video game or just on the phone with them talking for hours and stuff. But it was really fun reconnecting with them again, because basically with school and all the outside forces and stuff, it's been a while since I actually had a conversation with them. So it was really cool to see that again and stuff like that, and make that connection once more.
For me, I really enjoyed having a vast amount of time to explore all the things that I wanted to do before, but never really quite found the time. So for me, the greatest joy was having that time to explore things. I always wanted to figure out how to sort of paint with acrylics. I thought that I would have fun with it, but I found out I did not. On the other side, I found out that I really like knitting. So it's been a period of discovering what I the things that I've always wanted to do, doing them and finding out whether I like them or not. So that's been very fun for me.
I definitely agree with Savrashika. I think during quarantine, I've had a lot of opportunity to pursue art, which I didn't really have time to do during school. I've had a lot more time to write music and draw and paint and just do all the things that normally would be a hobby, because school takes up, especially in-person school, takes up a lot of time. You're on campus for most of the day and you don't really have a lot of time to do other things when you have homework to do. And so just having the opportunity to sort of block my time how I wanted to with all of the asynchronous work allowed me to build in more time for the things that I love to do and the things that actually bring me joy in life. And so that has been one of the greatest joys during this time, which I recognize is a privilege, that I'm able to even enjoy doing that, and that I don't have to worry about more serious struggles that might have been brought on by the pandemic. And so I'm definitely also grateful to be able to have enjoyed, to some extent, quarantine.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on the flip side of that, what has been your greatest struggle or challenge? Anyone can jump in.
I would say the greatest struggle or challenge, especially for me, during my freshman year, it was my first year going back into school after the whole quarantine thing, and it was kind of hard to stay motivated and still wanted to do all the work and still wanted to participate in the class, because there's no really like social aspect to it. You don't really know people, and because of the fact that we're on the other side of a screen, you can't really get to know people. So it was really difficult to stay motivated and want to be in class.
I agree with Arnez. In my biggest challenge was also self-discipline, sort of having this motivation to finish things on time, having like the discipline to like kind of wake up on the right time, do my homework at the right time, and sort of having that sort of self-discipline to manage my time efficiently instead of sort of wasting it on this thing or the other thing. So that sort of self-discipline has been the biggest challenge for me. And hopefully it's kind of the pandemic has kind of taught me to be more, hopefully slightly more disciplined, but that's yet to pan out.
Yeah, like the biggest challenges with me, it's kind of two things. So for one, it would be like the constant misunderstandings on screen or like whatever, just with practical things. Because when it was like the first week of COVID and stuff, I was on like complete quarantine. I couldn't leave the house. My parents wouldn't let me. They said it was too dangerous. So basically, if I wanted to get food or anything, like stuff that, like a teen can do and stuff, like just go out and get some food and stuff, I had to rely on DoorDash or whatever, or some other person to get it for me and stuff. And if there was a misunderstanding of how I wanted a thing to be done and stuff like that, it's kind of not that much I could do, because basically he already got the food and stuff like that. Or even if you're talking with the teacher online and stuff like that, and like, you're on mute and basically like you're just saying a joke to someone off screen and stuff, they think you're talking to them, and then you have to explain yourself of why you weren't talking to them. It's a really weird experience and very awkward, and you got to notice there's like a bunch of other kids online and stuff. So while you're explaining yourself, you look like an idiot. But maybe that's just me. That was a huge challenge. And then also, what I said of the greatest joy of like reconnecting with people, that's also has a backhand side to it. Because, what I learned from my friends, I learned some pet peeves about them and stuff, and things about their personality and stuff like that were more out in the open to me now and stuff. And so it bothered me a little bit and stuff. And so I had to like, really like talk to my parents about how it bothered me and stuff and everything, because I got to know more of their personal viewpoints and stuff and how they looked at the world, and it conflicted with the stuff that I look at. But yeah, those were the biggest challenges for me.
I think maybe coming from a little bit of a different perspective, I think for me, one of the biggest challenges was like being forced to confront like self-care and mental health. I think during the normal school year, or just in general normally in life, I'm like a very busy person and can sort of not ignore my mental health, but have the ability to like, distract myself by doing a lot of different things, from extracurriculars to working internships and just doing all of these things that I love. And all of these things are things that I love to do and things that I enjoy spending my time doing. But having more time, not just more downtime, but then more time also by myself, because like my parents are working and we don't have like a very big family. So having more time by myself, while it allowed me to like, create more art and do all the stuff that I love, also forced me to sort of confront that I need to like, take better care and like just prioritize self-care a lot more, which isn't a bad thing. That realization isn't bad, and probably might not have come had we not had this like worldwide shutdown. But it was definitely a struggle, realizing that like sometimes you do have to prioritize yourself and put yourself before your obligations and work or school.
No, yeah, that's I think what I did a lot. That was like a huge struggle because I also am like a really busy person, because like with school and all like my extracurriculars, like singing and playing my flute, like with music, or like playing sports like tennis, volleyball, like I was really busy. So when quarantine happened, everything just kind of shut down, and I didn't have a lot to do, and it helped me really focus on myself and also my family too. Because since the shutdown, I was going to play tennis season for my high school, and we played one scrimmage, and I got to know my teammates and also my friends. Like it was really hard not being able to connect with my friends in person. So like, because I knew my teammates beforehand and I was really excited for the season. And then when it got shut down, I was like really disappointed because I was a freshman last year. So that was really hard to go back into school because I was homeschooled for about 7 years. And my first, like, I went into high school for like, or public school for like the first time in a while. So I was really excited. And then that got cut short. And it was kind of sad, but I think it helped me focus on like self-care and all that and trying to become like better about myself and also caring about others.
Absolutely. And echoing a lot of that, I think for me, one of the hardest things was allowing my support systems to change. I know I'm really close to my friends usually, and I couldn't see them in the pandemic. And so allowing the people who are closest in me in my life to kind of fill the spaces that my friends had filled before was really challenging for me. And that leads us into our next question. So, what support system, such as family, friends, teachers, or other mentors, has helped you the most over the last 18 months and why?
For me, I think my family and my school have been great support systems for me. Like even if my like during the pandemic, even if my family didn't have like a huge new topic to talk about, it was still great to have that kind of daily social interaction. Because I think if I was just like left alone and didn't really talk to anybody, I think I would literally lose my mind. Because during the pandemic, it really like makes you like sort of like confused about many things. And another thing was I really appreciated my school because they constantly sent out like things that would help us like kind of rekindle with our community. They sent out once a survey trying to make us guess which pet is which teachers. And surprisingly, some of the pets did mirror the teachers. And they also sent out surveys about mental health to students, like quarterly, so that they could kind of check up on the students. So that I really appreciated that for my school. So I think I was very lucky to have such a great support system during the pandemic.
Yeah, I turn to a lot of meditation as a support system. A lot of people get misconstrued that you like meditation is just sitting in the dark and stuff and closing your eyes and stuff, but you can also like just look out a window and zone out for like 20 minutes to a half an hour and stuff, and then basically just let all the problems that are like, getting on your nerves just melt away. I'm more of like a straightforward person where basically if I have an issue and stuff, I'm going to talk to somebody close about it if they have the time, because you also got to notice that with COVID, everyone else is also in the same boat as you. They're also being overworked and stuff. I found that out the most with my parents and stuff, going to work, coming back late and everything. So basically, when my mom or my dad had the time and stuff, I would talk to them about an issue that was bothering me, whether it be like an issue with my friends or, just an issue at school or whatever. And they, just find someone who's very open to listen and stuff, and someone who is going to provide their best input and stuff. And you can use that input to how you want to solve the problem, because basically, yeah, I just find being straightforward with the issue at hand and stuff instead of letting it simmer and grow is the best way to go about it and stuff, especially during these hard times where everyone's stuck inside.
I would say one of my support systems during this time was definitely my friends, which like is sort of contrary to what you might imagine. But I guess like for like personally, like my best friend lives out of state because I moved a couple years ago, and so we were sort of used to only getting to connect online. Um, and I also have like a bunch of other friends online as well, which like obviously not everyone, but I feel like is more normalized in my generation. Um, and so there was a lot of opportunity to connect more with people online. I mean, positively and negatively, as we've seen in various ways. The internet has sort of gone crazy in so many ways during the pandemic. But I was definitely able to have more time to chat online with like my best friend and with other online communities that I had. And then a lot of opportunities like work opportunities and internship opportunities got moved remote. And so I was able to like form new communities through like finding places to work at and finding internships online, and was able to make connections with people that I might not have made if it had been in person, because like, you know, it's on the other side of the country or it requires like a lot of traveling. And so I think that like sort of like there were pros and cons to this online aspect, but people online definitely served as a huge support system for me.
Yeah, like going off of Prevo, I think my best support system would be my family and my friends, obviously. Because I mean, I was in my house with my family for like a year and I couldn't go outside. So they're very close to me. It was very easy to like vent to them and talk about all my problems. But yeah, going off of what Prevo said, like friends have been like a really, really helpful for me because we're also so fortunate to have like all this technology and to be able to talk to everyone. Because like if this were a while, not even that long ago, if it was like 20 years ago, we wouldn't be able to like text and FaceTime and do all this other things that like are pretty recent, but like we're all using them like a lot constantly. In this pandemic, they have really been put to use to like communicate with people outside of your household because you couldn't really go anywhere.
I would say my greatest support is most definitely my family, because not only did they help me like stay sane during this time because I had somebody that I could conversate with, but they also helped me stay on going to school and waking up on time and things of that nature. So that's why I would say my biggest support will be my family. And my next biggest support will probably be my friends, because same reason as my family, they help me like stay in myself, help me wake up for school, and also basically help me keep my sanity. So I had somebody that I could conversate with.
Great. And so now we're going to move on to our second theme, which is post-COVID. The first question is there anything that you want to carry forward from this period?
Can hop in for this one because I have like a pretty specific answer. I think something that we should definitely, I think we like, first of all, we just had to put it out on the table that like we've come to terms and realized a lot of things about the way that our society operates as a result of the pandemic, whether that be like, you know, carbon emissions or like workplace culture or just like general like systemic inequities and inequalities that are present. A lot of these things have come to light as a result of the pandemic. And so like, I think just at baseline, we need to recognize what those are, and moving forward, like need to address them. Like we can't go back to the way things were before because we've seen how bad things are. And so a specific thing that I'm thinking about with that is just like general culture around how we dedicate our time every day. And so like that can be like in school or at work or professionally or personally. I think that like as a society, we should allow everyone, students, adults, professionals, to dedicate more time to like personal life, like the whole 9 to 5 working in the office with like a 10-minute lunch break system, like, and then like school for 6 hours every day with like homework for 4 hours every night. Like that's just not conducive to anyone's mental health. And then I'm thinking specifically like queer folks, BIPOC folks. It's just not good. And so I think what I want to carry forward is sort of this flexibility that the pandemic has allowed us. Like, I feel like, at least in my experience, a lot of people have been a lot more flexible in being like, oh, you can't make this meeting because you have like a family obligation. Like, that's okay. Like, I recognize that, like, that's fine. And I think that we should take that culture and some of the things we've learned that, like, oh, maybe all of school doesn't have to be this way. Maybe we can allow students to direct their time and block out their time a little bit more. Maybe we can give folks more flexibility with how their days are structured at work or at school. I think those lessons that we've taken and how like workplaces and schools have sort of reorganized their systems to accommodate for the pandemic. I think some of these new systems we should take forward and can take forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, what was I about to say? Yeah, to carry over the youth voice, that is a number one thing that I feel like definitely needs to be carried over. That, like, I've been in so many countless like peaceful protests that is like, man, I haven't seen this much like youth voice since like Bernie, bro. And so, it was really cool to actually see that again and stuff. Like, just, like my fellow age group, my fellow generation and stuff, we're actually all going together and stuff, talking about just anything from race to just to anything that was going on in downtown. I just wanted to participate in because it was just really fun to have a youth voice and actually be able to speak out. So I would say, Brett, carry that over, and just also carry over like the level-headedness and the commitment to staying quarantined and stuff. I know it was very hard for a lot of people, and there were a lot of things, there were a lot of controversies and stuff with people not wearing their masks in public buildings. And so, I'm just glad that I was able to like, just, not go crazy with the mask thing. I was able to learn. I wear glasses, so basically it fogs up my vision and stuff. So I was able to learn how to breathe within the mask and stuff. So yeah, definitely carrying over those survival skills and stuff is another great thing that I want to carry over.
Yeah, I think that's really good because I'm Black and Asian, and obviously during this time, both of them were hit pretty hard. And I think like social media, especially, like everyone was like posting and spreading awareness. And I think it was really good because it was a trend for some people, which is really bad, but I think it opened a huge door for it to just not be a trend and for people to be able to spread awareness about a bunch of different things besides being Black and Asian during this time. And I think that really helped both communities and just all communities in general, because I feel like they're a lot more outspoken now. Because for me personally, in person, sometimes I tend to be a little more quiet than online. But when like a lot of people, I think when they're online, it's easier for them to speak up and voice their opinions and talk about what they think is wrong and right.
Um, my thing was actually kind of opposite from this flexibility of the systems. Mine was sort of an appreciation for systems. Like I realized sort of during the pandemic, and I think quite a few other people did too, that having a system, having a routine is so integral to sort of having like structuring your life correctly. Having like that sort of structure is so integral to sort of keeping yourself on track. I feel like I developed a new like appreciation for routines. Like before, I used to, if I had a really busy day, I used to grumble, be like, "Oh my god, it's like I don't like having this like schedule." But now I'm like actually appreciate that I have this kind of schedule, so that I don't like go off track or like I go like astray somewhere. I guess so. I feel like I'm going to carry forward like this new appreciation for having systems and routines, and that I'm not going to complain as much if I have a bunch of stuff to do in one day, because I feel like that's helping me in quite a lot of ways. So that's, I do like the flexibility of the pandemic though, and I do like that we're reforming the systems. It's just that I like having system overall.
Yeah, one thing that I do want to carry over from the pandemic is the strong will that took for us to not only be able to make it through the pandemic, but also to solve issues while we were in the pandemic, like the police brutality issue. When George Floyd got killed by a police officer, people actually went out and started to really actively fight for Black rights. There's also situations where people took advantage of that and they started looting and rioting. And also there's people who just did it out of sheer boredom. But the if even if it's just a small amount of people who grew a strong will to even want to do the things like fighting against police brutality or fighting for stopping Asian hate and stuff like that, I really want to carry that forward.
Absolutely. And so the next question is there anything that you want to end from the pandemic?
Definitely for me, I think we realized through this pandemic has sort of opened people's, like, given people a bigger platform to express their viewpoints that we would have previously not known if they we were just engaging with them in everyday life. So that has led to, I think, a lot more like anti-vax sentiment. So there are a lot of anti-vaxxers out there, and what I do want to end is this pandemic, but for the pandemic to end, I want anti-vax sentiment to end, because having this anti-vaccine sentiment is eventually going to lead to possibly another variant, possibly another pandemic. So in the same like kind of strain of things, if I want this pandemic to end, I want anti-vax sentiment to end. So I think that's what would be my main concern.
No, yeah, exactly. To like piggyback off of that, I think what I really want to end is America's and just the world's selfishness. Like people have been so selfish during this pandemic by not wearing masks or not getting the vaccine because they don't believe in it or they just don't believe in the science behind it. But it also, well, I don't want this to end, but like it's also shown that people are extremely selfless. Like they care about the people around them by wearing masks, getting vaccinated, taking all the precautions to get this world to go back to some sort of normal. But I think that's really, really important about this pandemic. But what I do want to end is just how selfish people really are. And it's been shown in this pandemic like a lot. It's shown not almost like the true sides of people, like because people can be sort of two-faced or just presenting to one group and then completely different to another. And I think that just this coronavirus has just really shown how selfish or selfish people can really be.
I think building off of what Corinne just said, there's sort of this like polarization that we've seen during the pandemic. And I think a lot of that is because, like Avashika said, there's a lot more ability for people to express their opinions online. And so we see like a lot more, or not a lot more, but a lot clearer opposition. And like the world has like sort of been divided into a lot more like this against that. So like people who wear masks against people who don't want to wear masks, people who want to be vaccinated against people who don't want to be vaccinated. And then even in like pre-existing like binaries, like political parties, I think we've seen a lot more just harsher divides than there were before. And I think that the division of anything is not really a beneficial thing. So I think that like, I guess like a good metaphor is like, it's sort of cancerous. Like when you're trying to stop cancer, you don't want more division, you don't want more cells to divide. And so similarly, I think that I don't want more of this division to happen. I think that we need to like come together around our humanity, which like Corinne said, like that's something that has happened. We've seen people's selflessness, we've seen how people care, we've seen, or at least in my community, I've seen people like support small businesses and like donate masks to shelters in the area. And so we've seen that there is possibility for like great compassion and empathy in the world, but at the same time it's like opposed against this reality that we've seen that a lot of people don't have compassion and empathy. And so I think that something that we can do to sort of resolve that tension is become more united and try to think less about what makes us different and more about what makes us the same. Because like division and having like opposition and arguing and fighting doesn't really help anyone, especially when the pandemic is something we're all experiencing and we're all suffering from, to various degrees, of course. And so I think I want like this trend of division and like polarization and opposition to end.
Yeah. If I were, I'm probably, wait, let me start. For this part where I explain what I want to end, I'm just going to go in a completely different direction. One of the things that I want to end is the old school system. The school system where it's just kind of like go to school, you learn a set amount of things, and you leave school. But now, after the pandemic, not only do I believe that they're going to try to have school hours to be more flexible by incorporating online school into it. But they're also going to incorporate more classes. Like in Chicago, they're going to incorporate an Asian history class, I think it's called. And we're going to be one of the first cities to do so. No, my bad. We're going to be one of the first states because I think it's a statewide rule. So one of the things that I'm really happy to see, and it's just the old, biased, unrefined school system.
Yeah, after hearing all you guys out and everything, I think like I'll just simply put it down to what I want to end is the fear, you know. I've talked to so many people about the the issue with COVID and stuff, and I've heard a lot of different takes on it and stuff, but it all seems like, at first they'll reply hastily and like, oh, well, this is what I would do and stuff like that. But then they'll quickly change it after hearing what they said and stuff. And I feel like, with everything with the whole Karen controversy on YouTube and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure like all of that stuff is just deriving from fear. The main reason they're anti-maskers are because they're trying to reform to saying like, oh, I don't need a mask and stuff. They're trying to put on this brave face and stuff, even though they're probably like really scared, like what is this disease really going to do and how far is it spreading and stuff. And with the news this is why I don't really like the news, like really spouting just bad news after bad news every single day, is because, it'll keep that fear, keep pumping through like everyone and everything. And so basically, with all these controversies rolling up and everything that I'm seeing in my hometown of Chicago and stuff, it just seems like everyone's kind of afraid, and everyone's just acting hastily, and that leads to bad decisions and stuff. But yes, I do like the selflessness and everything, with taking the vaccine and everything. But then again, we're doing big things like Lollapalooza this year, which I'm really questioning, like, why are we doing that? I thought we were in a pandemic or coming out of a pandemic. But, it's, that's kind of my opinion and everything like that. I just wanted to limit like the fear that's going through people, because it seems like through everything that's happened and people that have been passing away in their families and stuff, it makes people do rash decisions and stuff. Not everyone's thinking properly or straight. So yeah.
Absolutely. And so now we're going to move on to our final theme, which is what do we think adults in our lives should know? So again, the first question, what do you want adults to know that they might not know about your experience in the past 18 months?
I think what we've discovered, I think adults also know this, but what we've discovered is that internet, like just in general, social media, the talking news media has been a catalyst for change. Like we have now the power to like actually post the injustices that are happening and kind of go out and like kind of support them or like protest against them. But at the same time, is the same kind of social media and media that like take a certain topic and twist it around in a certain way to present it in a way that will spark outrage. Like they'll change the headline or they'll write the news story in a very like sort of deceptive way to make it seem like the incident is completely different than what really happened. So then that creates outrage, and that's like kind of what gets them clicks and whatnot, what gets them more money, and that sort of, as we have been covering for the past question as well, creates this polarization between us. And I think the main thing I want adults to know is that we, as a society, on a more journalistic side, should review stories and review facts more clearly and review our conversations more clearly before we say anything to other people or spread misinformation, just so that we don't sort of become confused about many facts. So I think the main thing I want adults to know is that I would appreciate if adults and kids reviewed their facts, reviewed their stories before spreading misinformation, just for safety precautions.
Yeah, one thing that I want adults to know is that the youth as a whole is overall more competent than not only the news makes out to be, but also more competent than other adults make us out to be. That's what I want to really have the adults know, is that we're way more competent. We have the anonymity to be able to go out and fight against racial injustices and fight against hate and fight against injustices and police brutality and things of that nature. That's the main thing that I really want adults to know.
Yeah, so it's actually two things. Social media is becoming more and more of a powerful driving force and stuff, and people's platforms, especially celebrities' platforms, can be like really powerful in shifting public opinion or public display and stuff. I've seen this in countless examples throughout COVID. Just throughout COVID. And, especially Twitter. I don't own a Twitter, but basically it's just like, it seems like a lot of public opinion sways from Twitter from what I've seen. So just basically watch out for that. And I also wanted to say, like, if you see a teen and stuff like that, that's like, not speaking up that much, they might be going through something because, that was like a period of my time in like school and stuff. I wouldn't really raise my hand or really participate in class because, I was going through either a death in the family or something personal and stuff. So basically, just let them come to you before you come to them and stuff. Cause basically, they just need that time to, reciprocate and stuff, what has just happened and stuff and help them move on.
I think sort of building off of what other folks have said as well, I think I would want adults to sort of like reckon with the reality that like age doesn't necessarily equate like experience and knowledge and wisdom, especially like in the world that we're living in that is becoming more globalized and more digital and more online. And I feel like the rationale behind age equaling wisdom is this idea that you've lived on like the earth longer and that you understand how the world works better and therefore can like make more informed and like wiser decisions, which to a certain point is valid, but that world that adults were living in has changed more in the past 10 years in our lifetime than it has in their lifetime, in their grandparents' lifetime. And we are the ones who have been growing up in that change and who are familiar with this new world, like the online world with the internet and social media. And so obviously like we are still young and we are still like learning about like ourselves, but when it comes to like understanding like our society and like recognizing how we interact with each other, we as young people are not any less qualified to weigh in on societal issues than adults are, because we are living in this new world and we are like digital natives, I guess is the term, to like the new online world. So I think that as much as we can help adults to recognize that and allow adults to like bring youth voices into conversations at all scales, I think we can move in a good direction.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, we are like, I think that, yeah, like age doesn't matter much when it comes to like wisdom. We should probably get rid of that. But also adults need to realize that kids learn from example. Like well, to a certain point, once they get a little older, then they start to come up with their own ideas. But like they learn by example. Like the adults in their life really need to be an example for them. And like I think the internet has really helped though, because some adults, they're not really closed-minded, they're just not really open to all like the views and perspectives. And I think the internet has really helped with that, because if they are like curious, then they can go on and learn about these different issues and maybe think about how that perspective, like looking at other perspectives besides their own, can really change their mind about a lot of topics. And then they can teach their kids or just like their students or something like that. And also I feel like politics too. A lot of politicians are leading adults, or they're like dividing a lot of that. Like what Primo said earlier, we're very divided right now in this pandemic. I think politicians have really divided the people, and I think that they need to really try to bring us together more. Like I also this pandemic has really shown how divided the people are. I feel like before the pandemic, we thought we were like all cool and like we're just like, okay, I guess you can think like that, but I'll just keep thinking my opinion and you can keep thinking yours. And that's not really the best idea because you shouldn't really ignore problems. Like this pandemic has divided us, but it's also helped us see the problems that we really need to work out. And I think it's helping us come together and kind of talk about those things. And it's kind of helping with us trying to be together and trying to fix these problems.
Absolutely. And so our last question for today is, what steps might help you adjust to normal life, including school this fall?
I say this some steps that you can take to adjust to normal life is to first realize that things aren't going to go back to the original normal pre-pandemic. Things are not going to go back to the I'm going to be going to school and we're just going to do the exact same thing. There's going to be new classes. People are still going to be kind of scared of the virus and something similar to that happening. People are going to be wearing masks. There's going to be probably some amount of social distancing, and things are not going to go or be the normal that it was before. That's why I think is the first step to adjusting to the new normal of society as a whole this fall.
I think like Arnez just said, like we have to realize and like and also how we talk about it too, that like everything like we just talked about, all of like the issues that we brought up and everything that like this whole panel just discussed, I think it like there's a sentiment that we have to like make change in society, and I think part of that change is how we talk about how this pandemic is going to, because I think this sort of comes in two parts for me. One is that, and this will get back to the question eventually, bear with me. The first part is that like in the rest of the world, it's not over. Like the rest of the world is still struggling with COVID-19, and like we're very privileged in the US, which like I think we should all be very grateful for, that we can say that we are like exiting the pandemic, but it's still very much like a real problem in the rest of the world. And so related to that, and like moving back towards the question, is that I think we can't call whatever is coming like going back to normal, because we shouldn't go back to normal, because the pandemic allowed us to realize that how things were before normal was not good. There were systemic inequalities. There were issues with the education system. There was like this huge damage that we're doing to the climate that's escalating climate change. And so we shouldn't go back to that. We shouldn't go back to what normal is. I think that like when we talk about exiting this pandemic, at least in this country, we need to think about how we can go to a new normal or a new system, how we can reform education, how we can reform the justice system, how we can reform the policing system. I think going back to normal and saying that as like a term in like the media and how we talk about it propagates the idea that we should go back to the way things were before, but we shouldn't go back to the way things were before. We should go to a new way, a way that is informed by everything we've learned from the pandemic.
I agree with Primo and Arnez. Like, I really do believe that we cannot have the world is not going to be like the same thing as it was like in 2019 or 2018 or whatever, right? But like many of the systems are still similar, but the people themselves are different. But I think there are always people who are going to try and go back to this the normal, the 2019 normal. Like, I think some panelists stated before as well that there is an event that's going to happen later this year, and I've seen a lot of events that are people are planning to go, like that are happening again, and it's very confusing to me as to why we are rushing so fast, like to go back to the normal. It's like we don't need to immediately, like as soon as we get the vaccine, we're not gonna like go and run straight to get back to normal. I mean, yeah, we got the vaccine. It doesn't mean we need to celebrate and go to every single party in town. It's we can take baby steps. I feel like we can go slowly. I'm not saying let's not celebrate at all. I'm just saying let's take it in a controlled like manner where we're not rushing to get everything back on. So yeah, that's what I think. I think that we to help teens adjust back to normal, we should just let teens themselves take this slowly, take the steps to getting there instead of being like, oh, here's this new event. You should all go and everything will back to be normal. Like, I think we should just take it slowly and I think it'll all pan out better than rushing into it.
No, yeah, exactly. To pick off of her and what Primo said, like we should not be trying to rush into this normal lifestyle again. Obviously, it's not going to be how it was before. Like kids' last, I guess, normal year of school was like the year 2018, 2019. And that's not going to happen this year in school, obviously, because we've gone through this pandemic. We've also learned lots and lots of things that we really need to fix. So this normal lifestyle, I don't think will return. And even this new normal lifestyle, I don't think it's going to return in the fall. We're going towards it, but we still need time. We can't just rush through just a year of a pandemic and we're like, okay, it's over. I want to get back to my normal life. That's not really how this works. And what was I going to say? I feel like just, oh yeah, people also during the pandemic just partying and doing how like things were normally not really caring about, how that can really affect life and how it can really like change the way we're living. We've seen how those stupid actions have changed the way we're living, but like also just the natural just actions and incidents and all that kind of stuff have really changed our normal lifestyle. And this fall or even later, I think we really just need to start to live a new kind of normal.
Yes, piggybacking on what everyone else was saying, yes, we need to revisualize a new normal because saying heading back to a, just, the past life and stuff like that is not that great. We need to keep moving forward. We need to be pushing to the future with new future ideals that is equal to everyone, so it's fair for everyone. But before we do all of that and stuff, I do recommend that you need to take a deep breath before taking a big step like that. Like I said, this is a giant leap for everyone. So basically, in order for all of us to be equal and stuff, I find that we all need to be calm and collected when going into this, or else it's just going to spiral out into chaos again, just like, all those years of Days of Futures Past. So, yes, I know a lot of people dislike the word normal and stuff like that, but I mean, on one side, I get what you all are saying, but on another side, I just feel like people are just tired of being, like I've said before, tired of being afraid. They're tired of wearing these masks, and they're tired of hearing this deadly disease that can kill people at a certain age group. That, like, for any Shia said kill people, deceased people at a certain age group. And so, when you hear that and stuff, it makes people go a little antsy, have anxiety spiking and stuff. And that's why I'm saying, like, take deep breaths, meditate if you need to, just try to focus on like creative, anything of creativity or hobbies and stuff that bring you happiness. And, that should take us all to a better future. So.
Absolutely. Because we're running out of time, I'm just going to go into the concluding little housekeeping items, but thank you guys so much for talking with us today. It was amazing to hear all of your perspectives from all across the country. And yeah, again, we really appreciate it, and it was super informative. So again, on the behalf of the Center for the Developing Adolescent, the Readiness Project, and Youth-Nex, thank you for joining us today. If you need a certificate of participation, again, please email youth-nex@virginia.edu. As a reminder, you can access the session videos and other resources, and I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Nancy Deutsch from Youth-Nex.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude first to Lucy and to all the panelists today. A number of people mentioned in the chat how inspirational you all are, and I agree. And I also want to say, you mentioned wisdom, which I think all of you had on full display. And you also talked about, the need for adults to be models. And I really wanted to point out that I see you all as models for adults. I think we can all learn from your leadership and your modeling. And I just really appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom and expertise with us. Thank you. I also want to extend a deep gratitude and thanks to our partners in this work, the Center for the Developing Adolescent, the Readiness Projects, and of course, Lucy and her colleagues at Youth Radio, who have been leading this webinar series all along. We really couldn't have done this without you all. We really appreciate this, you all. And we hope you will continue to share this. The videos, as Lucy said, will be up and available on the websites of the partnering organizations. And we hope if you enjoyed these, that you will also share them out with others. I think as many people have mentioned, the youth have given us a lot, the panelists have given us a lot to think about today. And thank you all, and I wish you all the best for a continued safe and hopefully healthy summer and start to the school year. Take care.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure.